morning, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I am your astrologer. Today is June 7th, 2021, and I am coming live to do my weekly astro weather to talk to you guys about this new moon solar eclipse in Gemini. Super excited to do this and nerd out with you guys. Thank you for being patient. Sorry, we have a bit of a delay today. There's all kinds of like crazy stuff going on with electronics and with my internet stuff as a result of Mercury square Neptune. So it's been really fun. So how's everybody doing? Thank you guys for tuning in live. I know it's early on a Monday morning. Hello everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for waiting. Sorry to keep you waiting. And I am like trying to be wide awake. I'm drinking my coffee because it's definitely a little bit harder for me to get up and do this in the morning. So I wanted to make sure I got it out before I kind of got really busy with my work this week, because I didn't want to wait until Wednesday to put it out. I felt like the sooner this comes out, the better, to really help people prepare for just this eclipse and what's going to be happening. Although the energies have been wild, we have already been in the eclipse energy. So now this is just kind of that build up into what will be the new moon. Good morning. Hi, Asha. Hi, Love Bug. Hi, Soul Sister. Nice to see everybody. Good morning, Kristen. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? How are you guys doing in the retrograde and the Neptune squares? It has just been like, for me. Yeah, I told you guys some of my stories about what happened last week. It manifested a little bit differently shortly after that. Then I kind of segue from ruining electronics or ruining cosmetics to now, like I actually just got done last week filming a podcast basically in my pool, like poolside. So those of you guys who watch the Midheaven podcast, you'll see that. That's going to be coming out in the next week or so. If you haven't already subscribed to the Midheaven, check it out. I do it with the Peace Dealer, and we come on weekly basically and talk about astrology and current events. And it's funny and it's all kinds of craziness. Hi guys. Hi Allison. Hi Chelsea. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So let's get into talking about what I am seeing with this new moon solar eclipse that's going to be manifesting as a result of, just all of this change that's happening in the world right now. Patrick, morning. I was wondering about your training ideas you had a month or two ago. Don't worry, it's coming. I'm actually thinking about, let me know if you guys are interested. I'm thinking about starting what's going to be like a study group. And it's an idea that I'm like playing with, because the retrograde's actually happening in my 9th house of education. So it's like a lot of like me deciding if I'm going back to teaching. And I've been teaching tarot and astrology and intuitive development and all kinds of other metaphysical subjects for the better part of the last like 8 or 9 years. So I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do that, to bring it to a group of people. So what I'm thinking about doing is starting a study club and maybe holding it once a month, and then having people subscribe to that study club. So it'll be like a monthly donation just to participate, and I will be teaching astrology and kind of mentoring people. So I'm planning on getting that ready. I'm working on that right now. Hi, Chelsea. I see your comment. Awesome. Awesome. That would be great. Yeah, it would be great to have other teachers. I work with lots of people who are into metaphysics and astrology, and I definitely mentor and work with people who also have their own practice. So that would also be kind of like a fun angle, would be to talk to you guys about it and kind of help you figure out ways to navigate being successful in doing this and doing it the right way, and also having all the tools and the knowledge from my experience of having built a practice and working for myself for the better part of the last 8 years. So I think that that can be really helpful. Hi, Starry Ari. Hi, Lady Snake Priestess. All right, guys, so let's get into the eclipse. So this is going to be a new moon solar eclipse in Gemini. It'll be on June the 10th, 2021 at, 3:53 Pacific time, 6:53 Eastern. Obviously, adjust your time depending on where you are in the world. And this is a new moon, so basically clean slate, new energy, and I'm very excited about this moon. The more that I keep coming back to it, and I've been studying it over the last two weeks really, the more that I kind of realize that this is this new beginning that's giving us the opportunity to change our minds. And for those of you guys who find that you get really fixated in a certain way of thinking or a certain way of living or a certain routine or a certain belief, this is like going to shake all of that up and really wake us up to, I think, what is the path, right? The path, even though there may be two for many people. This is also a solar eclipse, meaning there's going to be action. This is action oriented. You know, we're coming off the heels of having this lunar eclipse that took place in Sagittarius, and that was very emotional. We were closing doors, closing chapters. I heard from a lot of people who were saying, oh my gosh, this energy is so intense. I can't handle it. I'm having a crisis. I'm having a crisis of faith, right? Sagittarius. I'm doubting myself. I'm doubting my path. I'm doubting my beliefs. I'm doubting my practice. I've had a lot of people who are in the metaphysical community, or a lot of my friends, a lot of spiritual teachers who have just been telling me, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what's going on? Like, if this is the way things are supposed to go, if we put all of our faith and our trust in source and know that we are being led in the right direction, why are things so chaotic right now? Why are things falling apart? Why are people spiraling out of control? Because we had a full moon before a new moon. So it's almost like we closed the door on certain situations and we weren't given the next step yet. Like, we weren't given the map. Like, we haven't really known where we're going. So we're kind of like blind in a way. So blind in a sense of not knowing if we're going to hear back from people, not knowing if we're going to get the job, not knowing if the relationship is going to work out, but still trying to seek new methods when it comes to how we think, because I see Gemini as very cerebral, and I see you know, Sagittarius is more about our belief and our connection to source. So many of my spiritual people have been like, I don't feel tapped in, I'm feeling disconnected, what's going on? You know, is something wrong? Am I doing something wrong? No. When we go through eclipses, especially us being humans, you know, I always say, like, you know, we're spiritual people having a human experience. Like, we freak out when there is an energy shift or when there is an energy change, especially when old ways of thinking, old ways of living are now dying out. Like, we're going through a huge evolutionary shift. And all for the better, because there's nothing but positive aspects to Saturn, and I really feel like that's super supportive. There's a very strong Mercury Kazimi that's taking place at the time of the new moon, which represents the ability to really align and kind of realize something in terms of like a heart consciousness, right? So like when I see a Sun conjunct Mercury in a natal chart, that person is usually very confident. They're usually very self-aware. What you see is what you get. There's a lot of transparency in what they think and what they have to say. They're very self-aware. Some of them can be self-absorbed, and I say that lovingly. I'm a Sun Mercury, so I could see how sometimes people can be perceived that way, but their identity is very much merged with what their beliefs are and what it is they think or what it is they know. So when we have this manifest in a new moon eclipse, keep in mind, all new moons have about a 6-month working time. So once you have the new moon, it lays the energy out for the next 30 days until we get to the next lunar cycle. So we're dealing with it in a very big way the first 30 days. And then it takes until about 6 months later, when you have the full moon, to complete whatever new seeds that you've been planting. An eclipse, yes, you'll see that. Like, no doubt, all of the new intentions that you're setting, depending on where it lands in your chart this month, you will really see a lot of action there and a lot of reworking something there. But then in 6 months' time, you're really going to start to see it unfold. But eclipses can last for years. And kind of the determination that I've made is that this eclipse is actually going to affect things for the next 3 years. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit about why I think that and why I see that. And I'll also talk a little bit about how this is going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. So if you stay tuned till later in the broadcast, as I get to the end, I'm going to talk about each and every one of the 12 signs, where Gemini is in your chart, where this eclipse is taking place, how to make the most of it. I've also heard a lot of people who have been asking me about, well, how do I deal with this? Like, what can I do to move all of this static energy or anxiety? I've seen it manifest for myself. I've seen it manifest for a lot of my clients, a lot of my friends, as anxiety. And I think that is because of the squares to Neptune that we've been experiencing, because Neptune is very soft and kind of emotional and very sensitive, and Mercury in Gemini, it's chatty and communicative. So people are responding to this energy in a very different way on a case-by-case basis. Some people are getting really anxious and like they just can't shut up. They just have to keep talking. They'll keep sending the text. They'll keep trying to get through to people, making those phone calls, and may almost be like, you know, smothering some people because they're getting anxious and they're not getting the information coming back. And then two, we've got other people who are really anxious because of Mercury square to Neptune and having a difficult time integrating and being able to communicate and express feelings. I know that, you know, I've kind of seen it manifest as like getting so frustrated and not knowing how to find the words, and then just like bursting into tears because I'm so frustrated and being like, I can't find the words. This is not usual day-to-day energy for me. It's been really, really challenging for me to communicate clearly with other people and not just get frazzled. So like I said, and I said this in my last video, you know, if this is getting me, if this is affecting me in this way, I can only imagine how it's affecting people who might have a slight knowledge of what's going on cosmically, or people who don't even know, like people who don't even believe in this stuff, who are in my life, who I'm friends with, are calling me going, what is going on? Because something is happening. Like I can tell something is happening. And collectively, right, because Neptune is that representation sometimes of what's going on a global level. As we see the Mercury squares, I think a lot of people are picking up in their dreams. There's a lot of dream activity. There's a lot of people who are having stuff play out in dreams where maybe they didn't get closure with people or closure with situations, or they forgot things. You know, there can be this stuff that's coming up in a dream sense, and it can be very literal. Like I had a friend who sent me a message this morning telling me, you know, I had this dream and it was very specific and XYZ played out. And then I got up this morning and that very sequence of events took place with her daughter. And she was like, what is this? Like, what's happening? Why am I having precognitive dreams? Because we're kind of all adjusting our antennas right now. The truth is that eclipses promise that certain things end and certain things begin. So the beautiful thing is we're already kind of through the chaos and the drama of everything that shook out with the full moon. The new moon, for the most part, is positive. Now, on the flip side, I have seen, because new moons produce new events, especially a solar eclipse like this, it can come through crisis, guys. So sometimes there can be, in specific situations, depending on where this is affecting your chart, where there is a crisis that pops up. But I believe that whatever is coming up is information or a situation or a person we had to deal with or something we had to fix or something we had to be aware of before we started this new cycle. So this may not be the best time to be doing ritual or to be doing work. It's one thing if you want to, you know, clear your space, and if you're somebody who on every new moon or every full moon you want to clear your space. I do that on new moons. I always like to run through the house with like a little charcoal and incense, and like the whole place smells like church. Like that's what I'll do. Open up all the doors, open up all the windows, just to set the stage for the new energy that's coming in. So that's fine. But if you're trying to do some like really crazy ritual stuff, I'll get into why, but I will just say it's probably best to either do it tomorrow morning on Tuesday, or your other option is to wait after the eclipse, because this eclipse energy, I'm going to keep saying this, be careful what you wish for, because it may totally get blown out of the water. Just looking at the numerology, just looking at the aspects and the angles that we have, where we can ask for something and we can get literally what we ask for, and we may not be ready to receive it. We may not have all of the facts and information that we need. We may want to go in and tweak something, and at that point we've already set something into motion. So me personally, I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna wait a couple days before I see what happens as a result of the eclipse, because I do feel like there's going to be some piece of the puzzle that I'm going to get that's going to help me make a better decision about how I'm choosing to manifest and which path I take and what I actually want to receive. I recommend doing the same thing. All right, so let's get into let's see, this stuff. Just seeing what you guys are saying. Oh man, yeah, and it's kind of weird because, you know, I feel like even though there's been a lot of just the first couple of days of June was just kicking off with a bang, right, with the Mars opposed Pluto and some of the aspects that are going on with the Mercury squares to Neptune, but it should be kind of mellow. Like I think it's going to be quite quiet leading up to the new moon. It might get kind of eerily quiet to the point where you're like, okay, what's going on? Like, you know, when is the party going to start? Most of the energy is actually going to be most active, I think, after the eclipse. Because that's when the energy starts to kind of kick into overdrive, because also we're going to see the sun is going to come into a square with Neptune, because we are also going to see that we are going to have Saturn square Uranus. So right off the bat, right after this eclipse, we have to be willing to make constructive changes, which may not be easy, but it's going to help us come up with something that's kind of innovative and being able to better plan for the future. So let's start with this. Like I said, it'll be at 19 degrees, June 10th, 2021 at 3:53 a.m. Pacific, 6:53 a.m. Eastern time. Adjust accordingly. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, so it is a mutable air sign, and it deals with communications, contracts, you know, being able to talk to people, seeing two sides of a particular coin, keeping open discussions, being able to change your mind, sometimes playing devil's advocate. What am I seeing coming from this eclipse? One thing I have said, and I'm still concerned about, is technological glitches and issues that are going to happen on social media platforms because of the Mercury square Neptune. I also think that there's going to be new tech drops, new gadgets. There is going to be new social media platforms that are going to start really expanding, I think especially in the States. And we're going to see that there's going to be all kinds of new social media ways of connecting. And it should be a media giant, I think, that's actually coming or that's manifesting. It can also be a merger of two, which becomes one super kind of like media company or media platform. That can happen as well. And, you know, as a result of this moon, like I said, you know, it's a very potent time for new beginnings. And so something I've been doing for myself, and I've always kind of done this, but I'm doing it more so recently. I'm leaving like little notes for myself. So I'll like put it on my laptop. I'll put it on my phone. If I find a quote that I like, something that I want to keep in mind and be reminding myself of, just to kind of keep my mental energies positive and high, so I'm not falling back into old patterns. And that might be really helpful for you guys, you know, keeping notes as a reminder, journaling, voice memos, things like that. Thoughts are going to be very active, and you know, intention flows where the mind goes. So if you're in this perpetual state of, oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't know. You know, it's not clear, you know, and then in worst case scenario, like panic mode, you're not being present. And so that's the thing about, you know, manifesting and being able to co-create with the universe. If you are thinking about the past and you're really kind of, you know, beating yourself up over things that have happened and things that went wrong or things that didn't work, and you're also anxiously anticipating and worrying about the future, you're not being present. So the only way that you can actually constructively start kind of laying the groundwork for your future is to be present. Deal with things as they come. Ride the wave. There's lots of emotional waves that are going on right now. And in a way, we shook out a lot of the emotional stuff. Now we're like, okay, we've dealt with the drama. We've dealt with the sadness. We've dealt with the endings. Now let's turn a new, you know, page and be more open to, okay, well, where is the story going? I encourage you to really think about that and really put your intention on what direction you're going in and keeping an open mind. And it may mean that as a result of events that have taken place in this last month, your life or a situation or a relationship or something has taken a turn and it's going in a completely different direction than you ever thought it would go. But in a way, it's almost like, well, you know, that there's something beautiful about kind of like that breakdown and the struggle. Like when you think of like a race, right? It's like a marathon. Do you really just want to like skip all of like the actual marathon and cross, you know, the finish line and then that's it and then win? Or do you want to see everything that brought you to that point? So think about it like that. Like there's some kind of beauty in the struggle, in the process of being able to get where we're going. And there's a lot of communications and information and learning and exchange that's going on in the process, learning from other people, learning from our neighbors, you know, learning from our siblings, learning from our extended family. Gemini are these people in our life, depending on where the third house falls. But Gemini generally rules our interactions with people in our day-to-day. So really, in order to be able to better strategize and plan for long-term goals, you don't need to worry about the future right now. You need to worry about the right now, your day-to-day routine, what you're saying, how you're communicating, what you're learning, how you're staying open, what gadgets you can use to be able to better kind of work into your life and kind of assist you. That's what you need to worry about right now. And when we do that work on a personal level, the collective starts to grow and grow and grow to where actually we become a little bit more fuller functional, and we communicate better with the world. So it's gonna be an interesting thing to see what kind of comes of this. But you know, just all in all, be mindful of your thoughts. And if you're finding that you're in this kind of repetitive cycle of fear, mantras can be really helpful. You know, getting up and saying the same thing every day and reminding yourself that things are actually going your way. I was just talking to like my best friend, who's also my assistant, the other day, and he's like, I just keep telling myself like everything's going my way and everything's going to work out for me and everything's great. Not it's going to be great, not it will be great. No, everything is working out for me. Everything is going my way. Everything is great. And that the universe supports you. Even if it's something that's that simple, you will be surprised how much your energy will shift. The other thing is that Gemini is the element of air. So when you're dealing with an air element, breathing and breath is so important. Taking time to stop and practice your box method breathing. Take in a deep breath through your nose and out through your mouth. Do it 3 times. Really bring yourself back to that. If you're struggling and finding it hard to ground your energy regularly, another option is, bring some lavender oil or some dry lavender with you when you go to work, or keep it by your desk, or keep it at home. You can also take rosemary. I think that can also be really great for cutting through all of like the static that's going on right now. I really like working with those 2 herbs during this Mercury retrograde, because I feel like it can kind of snap you awake and get you kind of more aware and present. So those are 2 things that can be really helpful as a diffuser, as an essential oil. You can use it also in your daily beauty routine. Do be careful with essential oils. Many of them do need to be cut, so you should not be putting that directly on your skin. So if that's not something that you're familiar with, it might be great to just find somebody who creates that, and you can use it as a roller. You can also cook with it, so that's something else that you can do, or burn it as an incense. And like I said, journaling and voice memos can be helpful too, especially if you have ideas that pop in and suddenly you're like, wow, this is a great idea. I'm going to forget this. Like, write it down or create a voice memo. And we want to be reminding ourselves of what's coming, not stressing out over what has been. The other thing is that this full moon, this new moon, Mercury retrograde, this new moon is going to be a part of a 3-year cycle. So for me personally, and I'm like an OCD, like Scorpio, like I'm constantly 6 months to 3 years in the future looking at transits, trying to figure out and put together the pieces of why are things happening right now. Why is this going to be a 3-year chapter? It's going to be a 3-year chapter because, number one, we have another full moon Gemini eclipse that's taking place later this year, and that'll be around December 18th, 2021, around 27 degrees of Gemini. What's interesting is that is really when Mercury comes out of the shadow of its retrograde, and I'll talk about that in the rest of this video. But just know that whatever's taking place really the end of June going into July, it's almost like you're going to have that piece of the puzzle and go, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what we think. This is what we're working on. Okay, great. And then in 6 months time, when we have that eclipse, which is the closing eclipse around the same degree as the Mercury retrograde shadow, the next chapter is going to unfold, and we're going to actually have some kind of a completion of something that we're starting with. You guys are also mentioning frankincense, sage, myrrh, great. Lavender at your window, all that stuff is super helpful. And the other reason why this is going to take about 3 years to unfold is then in October of 2022, so this is next year, through January of 2023, we will have a Mars retrograde in Gemini, and Mars will go retrograde through all of these degrees of where we have had the Gemini eclipse, both last year and this year. So when we think of Mars, it's about action, movement, vitality, passion, sex, but it can also be anger. It can be reactions, rage, burning, cutting, releasing. So in Gemini, it's more about having really intense conversations or being verbally kind of aggressive or verbally sparring in a way. People who have natal Mars in Gemini, they are really kind of like silver-tongued. I think they can do a little bit more damage with their mouth than they ever could physically. So when Mars is in Gemini, and we are just coming out of this recently, it was happening a couple of weeks ago. It's just a quick exchange of information. So what will happen is there will be a review of this as it goes through these same degrees. Somebody asked about the November eclipse. Yes, there's a November eclipse in Taurus, but there is also going to be a December eclipse that will be happening in Gemini, and this will be the closing eclipse. So yes, the nodes are quickly moving into Taurus and Scorpio here soon, but technically the true nodes aren't going to move until the beginning of next year. So what we're really looking at is the closing eclipse that's going to happen for this in 6 months. And then going back to that the Mars retrograde, you will be reevaluating whatever you've committed to now, or you will be reworking, or there may be some need to push harder. Like when I have experienced Mars retrogrades just in some of my angular houses in this last year, I found that really good things came of it. It ended up being a really good push that I needed, and a push that sent me in a direction that totally changed my life. And you want to be open in any retrograde to reviewing, reworking. Now we feel Mars retrogrades and Venus retrogrades and Mercury retrogrades more so because they are closer inner planets. So when a Mars retrograde happens, we had one last year actually. It was in Aries. There can just be more agitation, frustration, delays. And I would just say, be mindful that whatever intentions you're setting now, you will be reevaluating this at the end of the year. You will be reevaluating this at the end of 2020, going into 2023. So you may be setting plans in motion or setting intentions for, things that will take about 2 or 3 years to unfold. We are still in a Mercury retrograde. That is not news to anybody. We've talked about that quite a bit on this channel. And that retrograde is not going to end until later this month. I think sometime around the 22nd or the 23rd of June. So we're still reviewing, reworking, having challenges, maybe in delays in contracts or negotiations or moves. I've heard a lot of people telling me they're having delays in moves. Usually Gemini or the third house deals with movement. Or just having a hard time connecting and being able to get on the phone with people or getting responses in text messages or emails. And what's interesting about this eclipse is that Mercury will be Kazimi at the time of the eclipse. So if you look at this chart here, look at where you can't quite see it too well because it's yellow, but you see the North Node, the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury. Technically, during the eclipse, it's going to be conjunct, but it's in front of the Sun. It's also in front of the Moon, meaning information is coming back in. Usually when the Sun is conjunct something, it's combust, and in theory, it blows it out. Like in a natal chart, something combust will sometimes shine too much of a light for you to be able to see something. But when it's retrograde, I think it's totally different. It's like, whoa, I found this thing that's been missing for 6 months. Okay, great, I really needed it. Or I found that class that I needed to be able to finish my program. Or I finally found somebody to edit my book. So, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, somebody said it's an explosion. Not necessarily. I think it's going to be a huge information drop. There's a huge information drop coming. And I don't know if it's going to be some craziness from Trump because his chart is being lit up big time. Those of you guys who've heard me talk about it on the podcast, you know, he's got like the North Node, Sun, Uranus all conjunct in Gemini in his 10th house. So this eclipse, this solar eclipse is on his Sun. A huge information drop regarding Trump is coming soon. It's also activating a square in his 7th house, and it's also making some hard angles to his moon. So these are the same eclipses that were going on, revolving around the time of his birth. So pivotal karmic things are happening. And it can be that, you know, all of this information comes out that relates to his investigation that we didn't see coming. It could be documents that's dropped that the public wasn't aware of. It can be that Trump comes out and goes, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but he was banned on Twitter for another 2 years. So he may come back and go, you know what, fuck this. I have my own media channel. Here it is. Something crazy like that is going to happen. Equally, we're going to see big information drops in the world. And one thing that I would say is consider your sources, be very mindful. Like, so much about this, I think, is going to be an awakening that people are going to have, and they're going to start to realize that their sources for media may be completely full of shit. There is a lot of deception going on in the media right now, and I think it's going to push some people to be going and seeking independent media, smaller media platforms that aren't going to be managed and watched by Big Brother, platforms that aren't going to be going through and filtering things and controlling the narrative of what's actually being spoken about, talked about. Like, I'm somebody who's I turn off my news alerts on my phone. I don't watch the news anymore. I don't think I've literally sat down and watched the news probably for the better part of the last 18 months. For my mental health, it has been amazing. And I'm realizing that detaching myself from that puts me in a position of making a conscious choice to go and seek people who are going to do their research, fact check things. That's the good thing about this, right? It's going to bring in more fact checking. If there are media platforms that are intentionally pumping out stuff that is not honest, they may get called out on it, right? There may be drops and all kinds of exposés and things where there's proof that this is actually going on, where there's manipulation of details or facts. Or manipulation of numbers, especially connected to the virus, whether they're manipulating it up or manipulating it down. And Neptune being viruses, with Mercury square Neptune, it's, you know, I was out yesterday, right? And I'm walking around, and we go into the grocery store, and I'm getting some groceries, and it's like weird because, at least where I'm living, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. And you see some people walking around without masks on and some people wearing masks, and like people are still weird and kind of like finicky and like kind of like anxious, and people will look at you weird if you're not wearing a mask. That just goes to show you, like, on a mental level, as a result of the pandemic and what has happened, how people are really not adjusting well to segueing and coming back into, you know, the real world. And I think with the Mercury square Neptune is definitely going to open up travel, but it's going to have people anxious about traveling, anxious about being around other people, anxious about public transportation, or whether or not they can get close to people, because the Mercury square Neptune can be a little like, I'm not really sure if it's safe, or I'm not really sure if that person's breathing on me, or if I don't know, you know, if they're sick, because we don't know, right? We don't know. People can be walking around without a mask on. They may not be vaccinated. People can be vaccinated and they're still walking around with a mask on. It's just, it's very anxious. So I think it's also bringing to light the mental, emotional challenges that people are facing as a result of being cooped up in their house for over a year, right? But some kind of information is coming. I say that specifically because it's an eclipse. I think it's kind of rare to see the eclipse happening in the same degrees, but also within the same sign as the retrograde. That wouldn't be happening unless there was something, you know, really, really, really pivotal that we need to be aware of. So going back to the media and your sources, check your sources. Many people are going to be realizing that they no longer align with certain media platforms. Maybe you're like, I'm done with Facebook. I don't want to deal with this anymore. You know, I'm going to be, deleting my Facebook, and I'm going to go and look for something else. Or I'm going to go for a walk and hang out with my friends in the neighborhood, the original Facebook, or, you know, anything like that. Me personally, I'm kind of like hoping, I'm like, oh my God, is MySpace going to make a comeback? Because I've been wanting the world to go back to MySpace for a very long time. We'll see if that maybe happens. Maybe we'll see a revival in that. Maybe we'll see a revival in like AIM Messenger and all those other things. Maybe that's just my inner 90s kid that's like, please bring that back. The other thing that's going on is, not just important information coming to light, but a fork in the road, because Gemini is duality. It's having two choices. It's this segue from one or the other. So many people will have two options, two people, two jobs, two homes, two places, and you got to choose. With the square to Neptune, it's hard to make decisions. So I'm going to keep telling you guys this. Decisions are going to be more so easily made after June 22nd. Ideally, you're waiting until closer to the 10th of July. If you can wait that long to sign on a lease, sign a contract when we're fully out of the shadow and the Mercury square Neptune, which will happen 3 times, things will kind of settle a little bit better. And what else do we have here? A second option, second opinions, changing your minds, rethinking something, something from the past coming back, a person from the past coming back. And Mercury rules travel, contracts, communication, siblings, neighbors, daily routine. You might find yourself coming back to certain conversations that you have started and trying to get down to details. Now, the challenge is not just the retrograde, but like I said, the square that's happening. So currently it's in retrograde, and Mercury will cross over these degrees again, right? So it's right now during the eclipse, it's conjunct the sun at 19. It's going to drop down to about 16, and it's going to come back to these same degrees where you finalize something or you make up your mind around July 2nd, 2021. It will come out of the shadow and the Neptune squares on July 10th. So keep in mind, if you rush through something, if you don't have the facts about something, if you think you know something and then you make an agreement and then somebody falls through and then you have to go back and be like, actually, my friend's not so reliable, or, I'm sorry, I didn't know that the car was, a lemon. I mean, things like this can happen. Just take your time and make sure that if you're not sure, take a step back. This is a time that's more about active listening skills, and I think spending more time listening than speaking and communicating, especially if our thoughts and our feelings don't align. Like something may be very emotional for you right now and you want to make an emotional decision, and with Mercury square Neptune, it's like, am I making an emotional decision, or am I really weighing out all the facts and all of the options? Secondly, we also have with Neptune squares, literally the square means deception. It means misleading information, dishonesty, insecurity, distortion. I saw it last week with my channel. There was all this stuff that was going on with, like, I put up my June video and we shot it live and everything was fine. And then I go back to the video and the video and the audio was not, they were not linking. It was literally Mercury square Neptune. It was what you see through the screen, what's coming through the screen, Mercury, and what I'm saying, Mercury square Neptune, wasn't linking up with the video. On a more personal level, you'll see this is like somebody's actions and their words not matching up. They'll say one thing, but they act a different way. And so there's like a lot of like confusing interactions with people. Sometimes their body language or their actual actions aren't really linking up with promises they've made or something in terms of how they told you they feel, right? Equally, also, it can be the flip side. It can be that, somebody's like, no, I don't want you, but they keep texting you, they keep calling you, they keep showing up. They don't know why, they're confused. Confusion is a big thing with Mercury square Neptune. A lot of people aren't self-aware. A lot of people really also need to be careful when you're in transit, when you're driving, because I'm seeing a lot of people having issues with accidents. And that's as a result of Neptune square Mercury. So not always paying attention, falling asleep at the wheel, some people being under the influence. Some of you guys are saying, yeah, audio from your computer has been horrible. This has been like insane. Like the last couple of lives I've done, it's just 1 minute the audio is fine, 1 minute it's not. We're having issues with delays with the internet. There should be no problems. This morning, my iPad was like, no, I'm not going to show you the chart. And I was about ready to throw it across the room. I'm glad I did not do that. But also with Neptune, we see changes in travel and borders. So I think that due to Mercury in a square to Neptune, certain borders are going to start to open. And we're going to see this even more next year once Jupiter really goes into Pisces fully. There will definitely be a lot more exploration of the world and traveling and going places and doing things. So that'll be fun. But yeah, you know, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Somebody said they were in a fender bender. I've heard so many people tell me this. I think I've heard about probably at least a dozen car accidents in the last week. Clients, friends, all kinds of people. Yeah, people who have even gone as far as saying that, you know, they ran into somebody in the past because they ran into somebody. I mean, like literally, like this is literal. It's, you can't make this stuff up. The energies are not playing right now. It's almost like if you're meant to have a run-in with somebody, if you're meant to have a phone call, a conversation, a closer of some kind emotionally or karmically, like somehow that person's gonna run into you. You might see them at the market, you might run into them with a friend, they might slide into your DMs, they might be somebody also who just pops up on your Facebook, you know, page of somebody you may know. Weird synchronistic things are happening. A lot of this is also because of the aspects to Saturn. So let me get into the aspects really quick, pretty much have everything. The one other thing that I am missing is, and this is the biggie, Saturn in Aquarius in a trine to the North Node, Saturn in Aquarius still in a loose trine to the Sun and to the Moon. So Saturn has a plan, right? So it's like we have to, on a personal, more local level, Gemini, do our work, have our conversations to better support where we're all going as a future collective. Lots of stuff in regards to the internet, I think, is going to happen. Whether this is like, you know, there was some information drop that, you know, there are certain platforms that are going through and they're actually monitoring what we're saying, what we're doing. We already know that they're doing it, but it might be more of an exposing of that. We also may see that certain platforms are making big decisions, and it may not come out until later in terms of what they're filtering, right? And we know this through Google. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but like what you search, depending on where you live, like you're gonna get certain results. They're also gonna give you certain results when you go into the Google search bar, depending on the city that you live in. Same thing in terms of like what you're searching for, data collection, information collection. There's a reason why you're talking about a product and it pops up on your Facebook or it pops up on your Instagram. There may be information coming out about just how much they have on us and our statistics and our buying and our history and all of that stuff. So it's gonna get really weird, as if we weren't freaked out enough. With the trines to Saturn, though, it's important conversations, important drops that help us collectively make decisions that are more fact-based, information-based, and having important discussions that are actually paving the way for the future. Somebody ran into their ex at work, not surprised. Hi, Lynn, nice to see you. But yeah, I guess last but not least is we are coming mid this month into the second of 3 Saturn-Uranus squares. This one, I mean, it's never easy to deal with that. I feel like all astrologers are pretty much saying it's like the eclipse and the square is probably the most pivotal moments in all of June. And Saturn square Uranus is just, you know, old versus new. It's what's tried and true and traditional and stable and consistent, and what, you know, maybe even older generations have done versus Uranus, which is in Taurus, and how we are shaking things up in regards to values, money, cosmetics, beauty, food. I do believe what this is going to manifest as is some food shortages, and how the collective, Saturn and Aquarius, is dealing with some of these limitations and these food shortages and or economic fluctuations and changes. Big things are going to come from that. If you've guys been listening to my videos for a while, I talked a little bit about how that may manifest, especially in regards to the markets and market volatility. Very similar to what happened in February, but what's different now is this, in a way, is coming into a more intense square now, with Mars moving into Leo soon, and as we get into Leo season, we're going to start to see the beginning of what will be T-squares between the axis of Leo, Aquarius, and Taurus. So for right now, all you need to know is just coming off of this eclipse, you'll see mid-month, it's like, whoa, we need to make a change. There needs to be a way to honor the old while paving the way for a bright future and being kind of unconventional and quirky. And it's definitely about money. It's about money, values, what brings us security, things like that. And Saturn in Aquarius, I think, is strong right now because Saturn is retrograde. So we are going to see more limitations, more slowdown. Time might seem like it's going by much more slowly. We might see a crackdown in what's going on in terms of, you know, if you guys think we've seen limitation now, you haven't even looked at the astrology of next year. You know, when Saturn really comes into a square with Uranus and the fixed signs, that's going to get kind of wild. So for right now, you want to see where there's resistance and you want to talk about it. You want to be about it. You want to come up with solutions. You want to be focused on solutions, not the problem themselves. Because when you get so focused and fixated on the problem, you get in that like one, you know, track mind of never really kind of getting out of that crisis. All right, so that's pretty much everything. Just know that most of this is going to shake out just after the eclipse date. You guys will have to leave me some comments below and let me know how this manifests for you. I do want to talk about how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. One thing I didn't do, and I was kicking myself on I think the last moon or the last eclipse, is I didn't talk about the Sabian symbol. And I meant to do that. Usually I do. Living on coffee over here. So because this is at 19 degrees and change, we're going to read 20 degrees of Gemini and what the Sabian symbol says. Hi, Lynn. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. Hi, J-Lo. So those of you guys who aren't aware, Sabian symbols, Screen of Prophecy, great book. Basically, it's a whole set of all of the 360 astro degrees, and there's like a little like phrase or like a little like prophecy with keywords and a theme, and it talks about what will manifest as a result of an eclipse or anything, a transit, even daily transits, moon transits. But I like really reading them for the new moons and full moons because they really do sometimes play out literally. Okay, so Gemini 20, a cafeteria. Keyword is supply. Okay, keep this in mind because a lot of the things that I talked about, you're going to hear. A full supply for here and now. The symbol speaks to the division of labor in any society whereby each individual benefits all of the others by contributing his own special skills and talents to the pool of resources. The image of a cafeteria emphasizes abundance, variety, and the importance of using discrimination in satisfying personal needs and wants. At its positive, its highest, the symbol represents versatility, personal enhancement, through full participation in the give and take of situations of life. You want to guard against indecision or the inability to keep long-term commitments. The accent is on self-help. Everything you need is at hand. All you have to do is choose. Your greatest advantage lies in taking care of your responsibilities and being willing to ask for help when you need it. Guard against letting yourself get confused by a number of choices available. Know what you want and don't dwell on trying to get the things that you do not need. Nourishment, abundance, supply, variety, choice, diversity, self-help, division of labor. A lot of the things we kind of spoke about, right? Making a choice, when in doubt, you know, talking to people. I think the Sun, Mercury, trine Saturn can be, you know, talk to friends, switch up your friend groups, talk to a multitude of different people, get different perspectives before you make a decision. Lean on your friends, talk to your friends, call your friends, ask for help, offer help to those who are in need. Working together is really going to be the solution. With Gemini, two really can be better than one. So if you have any planets that are between, let's say, 17 and 22 degrees of the mutable signs, you are going to feel this very intensely because of the square. Air signs like Aquarius, like Gemini, like Libra will do well, especially if you have any personal planets, sun, moon, and rising, or other natal planets around that degree of 17 to 22 degrees of an air sign. You will experience a trine, so it'll be harmonious energy that's going to be divine and help you kind of move things, move ideas, have conversations. If you are a Gemini and it's your birthday, it's a new moon solar eclipse, it's a new slate, it's a really good time. If your birthday is within 72 hours of this eclipse, to get a reading, I really recommend it because it'll be a very big year ahead. You'll be setting intentions that will play out for 2 or 3 years. So it's very fertile and really rich with the opportunity for something that's new. And if you have this conjunct a personal planet, it's really important because it'll take on the theme of a restart in regards to that planet. So Venus might be love or relationships or abundance. You know, Mercury can be ideas, learning, travel. Same with Jupiter, it can be about spiritual quests. Saturn can be more commitment. The moon can be your emotional stuff, your home. It really depends on your chart. And so that's where it pays to really know and understand your natal horoscope. So when you see these kind of get dinged, you know what's coming. Maybe you don't know that. You can check out astro.com. You can go and put that information and look at your chart. If you like my reading style, do check out my links below. You can find my website. You can also see all my social media handles. I have some availability at the very end of July, but I'm pretty much, I think now, getting ready to book into August. I'm usually booked out about 2 months at a time. Sometimes you can catch me on here doing lives though. I've been doing lives on, I'm gonna start doing them consistently on Friday nights. I'm gonna do readings where I do 1 or 3 card spreads, and I'm also gonna start doing one question for natal charts. So if you have a question about your natal chart or a transit that's coming up or an aspect, I will be doing that in Super Chat. So stay tuned for that because I think that's the next one that I'm gonna do. But yeah, if it's your birthday or if this eclipse is on your ascendant, very pivotal time, brand new, fresh start, especially if it's on your ascendant. Pay attention to your energy. That can be something going on with your body or where you're living. Post the title of the book. Yeah, it's The Sabian Symbols, A Screen of Prophecy by Diana Roche. Great book. This is one of the things I always keep on my desk. I have books everywhere. I have an insane collection of books. If you saw my office, maybe one day I'll go through and I'll start talking about stuff that I think would be really great for beginners. Somebody asked about the opposition to your sun. Oppositions represent opportunities to see both things, but that can represent some kind of standoff that you have with another person. But also energetically, it can feel kind of draining. So be mindful of that as well. But yeah, guys, if you have a question, you can also hold off and wait until later this week. I'll post that probably in the next day or so you guys know the time, but I'm going to be probably doing that, I think, on Friday evenings on Pacific time. And yeah, you'll be able to get on there and ask one question about a transit or about a natal chart, and it can be really helpful also for people who are wanting to learn more about astrology and how to use astrology more as like understanding and being able to predict. Seeing lots of people who have placements in Gemini, Venus in Gemini. It's great for reevaluating relationships, setting new intentions for relationships after you've cleared out the old ones, thanks to Mercury, probably through your dreams. And then a south node will definitely it will manifest as a clearing, a letting go, but karmic situations because it involves a node. Yeah, Heather, it'll be good, but for all those Gemini risings, if it's really close to your ascendant, pay close attention to your body. Be careful about how you communicate. There can be like changing your mind or not having all of the facts. Live readings on Friday evenings. Thank you. I got a brand new deck. It's super pretty. What is it called? I think this is the Neo Tarot. Hold on. Let me see. I should have done an unboxing video for it. It's beautiful. This is the Neo Rider Tarot. Comes with a cute little book. The card actual material is like very slippery, so I'm just gonna hope to God I don't throw these cards all over the place on internet live. So I want to talk to you about how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. Listen for your rising sign for the action of what will physically manifest. Listen to your sun sign for how it relates to you on a more personal level. And it'll really make sense because you'll feel it. You'll be like, oh yeah, that is actually what I want or what I need right now. Sorry, I gotta put these bad boys away. All right, so let's get into it. So for Aries, this is going to be in your 3rd house. So you've got a Mercury retrograde and a new moon solar eclipse there. You may be re-evaluating a contract, a negotiation, trying to figure out a move. You may be trying to get a new car. Wait. You may be trying to have a conversation with your siblings. It might be like conflicting dealing with a sibling or a neighbor. The card that comes up for you is the Queen of Swords. I don't know if you guys can see this. Hopefully I don't blind you, but look at how pretty these are. Can you see that? Okay, these are so beautiful. I love these cards. Queen of Swords can be talking about needing to have an important conversation, wielding your sword wisely, being cautious about your words, sticking to your guns when it comes to communicating. You may be dealing with a Gemini, you may be dealing with a Libra, you may be dealing with an Aquarius. There may be an important conversation or meeting that happens that can also pertain to courses, lectures, something you're writing, something that you're teaching, or maybe a course that you're taking. Whatever it is, it involves a lot of like intellect and knowledge. And I see this as like being like a sense of maturity and being able to communicate in a very mature fashion. The Queen of Swords also doesn't have a problem basically cutting people off. So there can also be a situation where you're like, and that's a wrap. So just be mindful that you might be a little bit more short and snappy than usual. But if you have to have these boundaries with people, do it. For Taurus, for you, this is your second house. So it's dealing with your resources. It deals with your values. It deals with your self-esteem, your money, all of that stuff. A really great time to be setting intentions on abundance and reworking a budget or your money. And I would say really pay attention because of the squares from Neptune to you know, your bank accounts, if there's any transactions, if there's any big purchases or payments. Be really careful with that as well, because I feel like there can be errors that can happen. Equally with an eclipse there, it can be a payment that comes in or an investment that you make. You might be bringing in money from two separate streams. So there's two income streams that are coming right now, and you're trying to find a way to be able to merge those or to be able to just come up with a plan for what you're going to do with that money. For that, I get the Two of Cups. So that can be you working with a partner or working with a partnership. There can be like a back and forth. Somebody can offer you something that is financially valuable. You can be working with a romantic partner. It's about working together and being able to bring two really great aspects to the table and being able to make something. So you might also be sharing something as well. I feel like that's also somebody offering you something valuable, and it can be valuable information, right? Gemini, it can be somebody telling you how they feel and that they want to support you in something that you're trying to grow. So now we're moving to Gemini. So this is an eclipse for you, and this will be, in theory, if you're a Gemini rising, in your first house. Definitely a restart, big time. And I see this as like changing your mind, making decisions about who you are as a person. You just had this eclipse in your 7th. So there's lots of changes going on with relationships, or finally closing the door on relationships, or like releasing people and letting people go. And maybe you have more time to yourself than usual. Maybe you're reflecting on your personal goals, what you think, what you want to look like, all of that stuff. Because of the aspects in the squares that are happening to Neptune, that makes me feel like you're having some challenges revolving around what you want versus what's going on in a career sense, and you're still trying to kind of find your way forward. 6 of Cups. Okay, so this is about being reminiscent. This is about thinking about the past a lot, reflecting on the past, reflecting on your childhood, reflecting on what used to feel good, asking yourself, do I want to reach back out to that person? Do I miss that person? Am I going to see that person? Or it can also be like you looking at things and going like, I don't even know who I am, having an identity crisis. You're becoming a new person. And it's been happening slowly as a result of the North Node in Gemini, but now you're seeing those physical changes in your body. You're seeing those physical changes in how you think, how you communicate. And it might be startling how different you are now compared to where you were 6 or even 12 months ago. But 6 of Cups can also be being too attached to the past and too fixated on how you used to be or how you used to look or what your life used to be like. It can also be talking about a reunion, especially if you're hoping that you can like reconnect with somebody or getting in touch even with your inner child and really kind of identifying where there may be some issues there that haven't been dealt with. All right, so next we have Cancer. Certainly Cancers are having a little bit more of a challenging time with this energy right now because It is your 12th house. So this is what you do not see, what is not visible to you. So be mindful, Cancer. This is stuff that's going on more on like an otherworldly plane. It's like weirdness that's happening that you can't see, weird, deep insecurities that are coming up, hidden secrets, hidden enemies, people who are deceiving you, people who you feel like you can't trust, things that are coming to you in dreams. Nine of Swords. Yeah, I had a feeling. Anxiety and working through anxiety, feeling stuck. This is feeling mentally stuck. So, you know, she doesn't have her hands tied. She's got a rope around her chest, which can be this compression of emotions, compression of feelings, not knowing how to feel, not knowing how something's going to like fall into place. But she's not stuck. It's just mentally limiting. So maybe you're having issues sleeping. I would say, especially for Cancer risings, if that's the case, if you can't settle, breath work and working with essential oils, I think can be really helpful. Aromatherapy or diffusers can be really helpful in helping you sleep. And if you're having nightmares or you're waking up exhausted, know that this is happening because you're doing a lot of clearing out and purging, kind of like on the etheric realm. All right, so next we have Leo. This is your 11th house. This is fun, Leo. This is like celebrations, like realizations of your dreams, of your hopes. This is definitely you being in a situation where friends are having parties. Maybe you are being invited to a gathering, a get-together, and a friend from the past may reach out to you. There can also be squabbles that are going on with a friendship. You might be interested in networking with a whole new group of people, or maybe you're going back and forth between two friend groups, or maybe you're just trying to kind of expand your professional goals and aligning yourself with people who not only could be your friend, but people who are really in positions of power and making things happen. King of Swords. Okay, there's another Swords. So this can be you meeting a Gemini, you meeting a Libra, maybe an Aquarius. This can be you also really becoming really clear with communicating your professional goals, communicating what your dreams are, not settling for anything, and being very clear mentally about what the path forward is. I could also see this as like you connecting with somebody who's going to connect you with somebody else who's very powerful in the realms of negotiation, publishing, teaching, contracts. If this is somebody that you need, a friend may show up and go, oh, I know somebody, I'll introduce you to them. So this is a good card to pull. All right. I feel you, Brittany. There is definitely a lot of that stuff going on right now. Dreams have been so crazy, especially for me. All right, so next we have Virgo, and Virgo, this is taking place for you in your 10th house. Mercury retrograde moment. My notes say 12th, and I caught it. It's your 10th house, Virgo. So this is your career house. Virgo risings and Cancer risings seem to be the people who are having the hardest time right now. So if that's you, it's designed that way. But, you know, for you, Virgo, your 10th house, there's a eclipse there, there's a retrograde there, there's a node there. This is a really important pivotal moment when it comes to your career and you taking initiative out in the world and being a boss and being a leader, okay? Big, 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 big. I also want you to know that there can be changes going on in your workspace. I've seen lots of Virgos telling me like, I thought I was going back to work and now I'm not, or I changed jobs, or I got another offer but I have to relocate, or I'm going back and I lost my office and I hate it. Lots of things are going on that are changing in regards to you out in the world, and you feel like you need more control. You probably haven't felt like you have had control the last couple of days, and it's been challenging. It's a great time for new opportunities in your career though, and everything working out to actually give you more independence. Wheel of Fortune. I had a feeling. Listen, I keep telling people like this energy is like a diamond, and with all of the pressure and the intensity and the time that it takes for all of this stuff to flush out, it's going to produce something that's going to be very, very, very valuable for many people. Like we wouldn't be going through this unless it was actually going to be for our higher good. This is a card that talks about fate changing, and when it's upright, it's being in your favor. So it's kind of saying like the wheel is turning, and very much the wheel of your chart is turning when you've got all of these planets in your 10th house, and you've also got eclipses in your 4th and Neptune in your 7th. You might feel like your relationships, your emotions, your career, where you're living, it's all moving, it's all changing, and it is, because it's mutable. So all of these things do need to change. So if you're having a challenging time, try to take time to just acknowledge, okay, I know that things need to change. I'm listening. I'm open to moving through this, and I know that it's going to, in the end, actually be the best for me. And then for Libra, this is your 9th house. This is going to be really great for Libras and Libra risings, because the 9th house is associated with like luck and the bigger picture in your life, your beliefs, what you believe in, travel, education. So many Libras are going to be traveling soon, or planning trips to faraway places, going back to their studies, or equally teaching a course. If you're interested in publishing or anything that deals with sharing of information, working abroad, dealing with import, export, that's all your 9th house. And if you're like, I'm not traveling and I'm not teaching, then it's going to be about you having a total shift in your beliefs. And you might align with a guru or a spiritual belief or a practice that really changes your perspective. And the 9th house does deal with stuff that is like more about kind of Sag topics. So it can be like maybe you pick up a book on Buddhism, or you want to learn more about yoga, or that you decide that you want to learn a language. Things like that can happen. The Magician, magic. Really manifestational for you, especially aspects to your ascendant and to your 5th house right now. So it's being able to really integrate what the heart wants, and such a great card for you to be getting right now, because I feel like it's saying like the future is not defined for you, Libra. You know, if there is something that you really want, set that intention, set that wish, because you're making magic happen, and you need to integrate all of the elements. So specifically for Libras, I think it is important to do something magically to kind of set the stage for like what it is that you want to bring into your life. For Scorpios, this is your 8th house, so it's going to make you extra Scorpy. Realize that the 8th house is a very sensitive place. It's about a rebirth. It can be about death. It can be about letting something go. It can be about tax issues, joint finances with a partner. It can also be an indication of pregnancy, so just be mindful that if there's an eclipse there, it can manifest as a crisis. So through somebody finding out that somebody passed, through finding out that you're pregnant, weird things happen when there's eclipses here. With the Mercury retrograde going through this, there's a time to review and reassess, and it's a great time to review finances, debts, loans, paying off credit cards. It can also be a great time for you to just grow closer to a partner and be able to communicate a little bit more deeply with somebody else, okay? 4 of Wands. This to me seems like it's a celebration of change, and whether this is like something brief, or you know, you going through some kind of ceremony. Like this is a card that comes up for like marriages, or for baby showers, or anything that deals with like, you know, bringing people together and gathering and celebrating something. So even if it's not you, you're going to be celebrating some kind of a life coming, or some kind of a change happening, or some kind of union or something like that that's going on. So lots of Scorpios too, with like the squares between Saturn and Uranus, they're dealing with family, going back home, relocating. Some of you guys are talking about getting married. So there's going to be that happening in the next month for a lot of Scorpios. And then we've got Sag, which is your 7th house. You've got a retrograde here, so it's kind of crazy because you're like reevaluating what your relationships have been like, deciding whether or not you want to go back to the past, deciding if you want to clear out what you think in terms of relationships. If you're a Sag or a Sag rising that's had a tough time in relationships and things haven't played out very well in the past, this is like that restart button where you can actually get back in action. If you're currently partnered, it can also be a time where you can kind of you know, clear up any miscommunications that you have with a partnership, and really be able to get to the other side of that and move forward. It can also bring a very important person into your life. With a node in your 7th and an eclipse there, it can bring fated partners. It can bring fated friends, and people who you may potentially be with for a long time, or may even marry or settle down with. Ace of Pentacles. Long-term stability in relationships. That's what's coming. Stuff that you can hold on to, not people that are going to slip between your fingers. People who can also help you when it comes to your finances and feeling grounded, feeling like you have something that you can build with another person. Somebody who's going to be solid. They can be an earth sign, okay? It can also be somebody who comes in and says, I'm in it to win it. I want long-term goals. Maybe you're focusing on where you want to be a year from now. This is saying that it'll take about a year to fully transform. You might see action as early as actually the end of this year. You might find within 6 months' time, you're in a pretty stable relationship, or you're in a period in your relationship where it's growing or it's expanding, or you're able to really kind of settle out things that deal with finances also. Great card to be pulling for your 7th house eclipse. Now we've got Capricorn, so this is your 6th house. So this is a time where you might be starting a new job, you might be going back and forth in between jobs, you're having to show up to a new location. It can also be a time where you're more aware of your health and your schedule, and how those two things have to work together, and what is a healthy schedule and what does it mean to overwork. You might reorganize your space. It can also be a time where there's a new solution for a health crisis or a health issue. If you've been dealing with that for some time, you might have a new practitioner or somebody new that can help you. So that's really positive. You want to see, Kristen, which degree 19 is going to be on. So look at the cusp house. So if you're not sure if it's going to be where this is going to align, look at the cusp house of Gemini, and whichever side 19 degrees falls on, that's the house it'll affect. I practice Placidus because I'm a rebel. So for Capricorn, in regards to your 6th house eclipse and a retrograde, what's going to happen for you? Page of Swords. So I see this as needing to do breath work, breathing, especially when you get kind of freaked out, how you communicate, starting the beginning process of talking about your thoughts, planning and organizing things. This can be a message that comes also pertaining to your health. So if you're waiting results, if you're waiting testing, if you're waiting for a new practitioner, as far as I'm concerned, what this will do is give you the ability to assess that information, talk about any concerns that you have. Can be a great time if you're having also like lots of issues mentally. You know, you can go and like actually talk to somebody who can really help you sort and sift through this stuff, but it's the beginning process. This can also be you dealing with like a younger person. Sometimes pages can be pets, and this is your 6th house. So if you are a Capricorn that's got a pet that's going through some drama, some health crisis issues or things like that, it's really paying attention to how they're acting, especially if they can't communicate. This can be about miscommunications or having an issue communicating with people at work, but you'll be able to cut through this because being aware of the issue is going to help you actually correct it. And for Aquarius, this is your 5th house, and we're experiencing an eclipse in a sister sign. So similar to what I said for Libra, this energy should be quite lovely for you. What can I say about a 5th house eclipse? It's a new moon. It's a total eclipse of the heart, so to say. And hitting a reset when it comes to your creative projects. Very, very, very fertile time. So for Aquarians, be very cautious if you're not trying to get pregnant. This can manifest as a pregnancy. It can also manifest as going back and forth on what your heart wants, maybe dating 2 people, trying to make a decision between 2 people, hearing from the past, reflecting on the past. Can be a great time to be actually getting ready to start new creative projects, or setting the stage for being able to launch your own personal business at some point in the near future. That actually might manifest for a lot of Aquarians as a result of the aspects from Saturn. But Gemini in the 5th is communicating and saying, I love you. So it can be this realization that you want to say that to somebody, or somebody may say that to you, or realizing that you're still in love with somebody else. Page of Cups. Definitely still in love with somebody else. Are you still in love with somebody else? Page of Cups is a child also, by the way. It can be talking about a water sign. So you can be dealing with a child, thinking about wanting to have a kid. This being a new beginning for a romantic connection. It's fun, it's playful, it's whimsical, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has physically manifested yet. So just be mindful that this is the very beginning phase. You can be dealing with a water sign, so it can be a Pisces, a Cancer, or a Scorpio. But I love the Page of Cups because it's this offer of sweetness. It's bringing more sweetness into your life, bringing more bliss into your life, joy. A lot of you guys are reevaluating what it means to play, and that you need playtime, and whether that's with your children, with your friends, if you need to go on a date more. then all of that stuff is coming up for you right now. But I'm seeing a lot of Aquariuses that are getting pregnant, a lot of them, especially with Jupiter that's been in your sign and it's coming back. So even if this isn't happening now, it will possibly manifest later this year or even going into next year. And then last but not least are my Pisces. This is your 4th house. So an eclipse in your 4th house is setting the stage for where you want to live. A lot of Pisces may be finding themselves going back home, visiting family, deciding if they want to move back home, deciding if they want to move house in general. Maybe you've got one place, you want to pick up another, you want to live between 2 places, you want to have options. It's dealing with roots, so also the 4th house can be ends of situations. So realize that another way that this can manifest is that you have to say goodbye to one home, hello to another. I have some friends of mine who are Pisces, or they've got Pisces rising, and they're trying to figure out where they want to live. Many Pisces risings also are like thinking about bigger relocations, like to another state or even to another country. Are any of you guys going through that? Jupiter on your ascendant, making you a little bit more willing to go to faraway places. So let's see what the cards have to say for this new moon eclipse in your 4th house, Pisces. Hanged Man. Hi, Pisces. This is Neptune. So Neptune right now is in your sign, so is Jupiter. And you might be dreaming of going to a place, or you've had dreams of places that you have either been in past lives and you're being drawn there, or you're having dreams and like visions of you in the future in a place and it doesn't make sense. So as far as I'm concerned, this is about, okay, you know, am I actually going to end up there? Are my dreams going to manifest? This is a card that talks about waiting and seeing, not delaying, not self-undoing. There can be a lot of emotions coming up for Pisces right now. You can really be in your feels. Have your moment, do your thing, but if you do need to figure out either a new emotional foundational goal for how you're going to live your life at home, or where you want to live, or how you're going to handle your family, or just renewal, the stars are really on your side. With Jupiter in your sign, you should be feeling a little bit more positive and optimistic, and a little bit more whimsical. But some decision needs to be made either about your emotional state, or it needs to be made about what's going on with where you're living. And this card does say, watch out for like drowning in your feelings, sleeping too much, drinking too much, you know, partaking too much in, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid even, and not really getting down to details, like wanting to avoid certain decisions that you have to make, and it can stir up a lot for you emotionally. And with a new moon and eclipse and a retrograde there, it's like great time to clear your house out if you're not moving, declutter, purge, get rid of stuff, but realize that in doing this, it's going to stir things up in your subconscious, and it's going to get you very emotional. Okay? So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I'm pretty sure I caught just about everything that I really wanted to talk about. I'm excited to see what manifests as a result of I think this eclipse and where we're standing at the end of the month. So it'll probably be fun to come back and do a little bit of a recap and see how it's manifested for you guys, and how some of my predictions actually kind of played out, not just for you, but also for the world at large, because it's about to be a very active next week or two in everywhere, like globally. We're going to see lots of stuff start happening. And keep in mind, like I said, your thoughts and words are spells in themselves. So what you're thinking about, that's where information and energy is flowing. How you are communicating, what you're saying is actually going to come to fruition. So with this eclipse, pay attention to your thoughts, pay attention to new information, new ways of thinking, new ways of communicating, and really trust that this is happening for the better, and whatever crisis is kind of shaking out, this is just our little meat bodies reacting to these vibrational and frequency changes. And really, over the next couple of days, just be really aware of what's coming up for you in your dreams and emotionally, and what your intuition is telling you. If you feel stuck or clouded, just wait. Just give it a couple days. Practice patience, meditation, excuse me, reflection. All of that stuff that can give you higher levels of self-awareness, and trust that the answers are coming, guys. So thank you all for being here and joining me early on a Monday morning. You guys are the best. I love doing this with you guys. Once again, check out all of my links below. You can also find my social media handles. drop me a like or a comment or a subscribe. I appreciate it. I always like hearing from you guys and hearing how this stuff plays out for you. I will be back on Friday night, and I think we're gonna do the astrology stuff. So I'll get that stream going so you guys can get your information ready. Realize that to be doing the astrology readings, we're gonna do them live. So I will be pulling up your chart live and talking to you live. So if there are some private things that you don't want being seen, might not be the best, better probably to book a reading. But if you do wanna do that, make sure you have your birth information. You're gonna need your time, your exact time, date, and location of birth. With you to be able to do that. And I'll be picking people and pulling charts and answering questions and showing you how I break down charts and all of that fun stuff. And if you guys have any other questions, or if there's anything else you want me to do videos on, let me know. Also, equally, I would like to see if you guys have an interest in me doing the study club. So if I hear that enough people want to do it, I'm going to get it going. You also can now, I believe, I'm pretty sure that if this is either set up or we're going to be setting it up, I'm not sure, where you can support my channel. So we are gonna have new levels where you can support my channel. Maybe you just wanna donate on the lowest level, which is a couple bucks, which I really appreciate. We're also gonna have it set up where if you donate more, I'm gonna start doing horoscopes that are really good horoscopes for each of the 12 signs. So you'll get a little bit of an insight. It'll be one video and we'll go in depth into what's gonna happen for the month ahead. And probably some other goodies. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you. But that stuff is coming. And if you haven't seen the new episode of the Midheaven podcast, it just dropped. And I talk at length with Mike, the Peace Dealer, about the difference between a sun, moon, and rising. Go check it out. It's live. Otherwise, I will see all of you guys on Friday. Happy eclipse, moonlings. I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.